the past 2 years, I've been working on a game called Combat, where most of the combat is in midair. You might be wondering, how did this all start? It was November 9th, 2021. After competing in a game jam, in which I made a 2D online game, I decided it was time to return to a project I've been wanting to make since 2018. After creating the project, I began researching network solutions. I originally settled on Photon because I used it to make my game for the game jam, but later we'll see why this is not really a good idea. But I began working on some basic player movement, which was really nothing special. One thing I really like about it though is that it's completely physics-based, so we can easily add more mechanics to it. I began working on the first map, which is a Sky Wars map, and it has a ship in the center with islands surrounding it. It also has another central island that loops around, but right now there's not really any easy way to get from one island to the other. So we're gonna add the primary mechanic of the grappling. Right now it doesn't work in moving objects, but we'll fix that in like 2 years. Then I did a lot of network code to make it work over the network, and it finally worked. This took a really long time to do, so I hope I don't have to reprogram the entire thing. And I used Unity's Pro Builder tool to make 2 more maps. One of them is a floor is lava map, and one of them was a very bad factory map, which I need to remake. Then I had to make a 3D model for the player, and I had no idea what I was doing, so I definitely did not copy a tutorial. I then threw that into Mixamo, rigged it up, and then I implemented it into the game. Then I used my newly formed Blender skills to make 2 models, which are absolutely terrible, but they are a sword and a pistol. Then I made a whole weapon system, which I hope I don't have to reprogram twice in the future. Then I tested it with a friend, and the entire game was broken because you couldn't see what the other player was holding, and you also couldn't shoot because of that. The reason why this was happening is because they were parented to the camera, which is deactivated on other players' screens. So I made a camera holder and just put the camera and the item on it. I didn't want the players to have all items on them at all times because it would be very broken. So I implemented a basic inventory system. I made it so you start with a sword and then you scour the map for more weapons like pistols and ARs in the future. Now that's about all I got done in 2021. But 2022 was a different year. I realized that this project was serious. I wanted to keep going. And I realized that Photon wouldn't work out, so I had to find another solution. After doing some research, I decided I was going to use Mirror and Steamworks. This meant that I could have a server browser, and if I wanted to implement Steam inventory, I could. I decided to reprogram the entire game in Mirror and use Fuzzy Steamworks for the transport. Right now you can only join your friends, but in the future I plan on adding a server browser. I decided to put my amazing Blender skills to use, and I modeled an AR and an RPG. Now, to be fair, these models do look a lot better than the previous models, which were kind of hideous. I updated the gun script to allow for automatic weapons and made a whole RPG system. This work actually paid off because now I can add any weapon I want. I just need to make the 3D model. This should really speed up the process of making weapons. As I said before, I wanted to make a server browser, and to do that, I kind of need a main menu. So I got to work on a very basic main menu, and the character is there in case I want to have character customization in the future. Then I used Steamworks to make a very basic server browser, which displays the name of the room, the amount of players connected, and soon I will display the ping. I said I need to make a new map, so I made it a futuristic city, added a lot of neon effects, and it looks amazing. These sideways buildings make it look more abstract, and you can grapple on them. I played it again, and there was a lot of bugs with the new network. I kept getting the same error that disconnected the client, so I literally just commented out that line, and it seemed to work fine. Then I worked on 2 more maps, a Sky Castle map, which Nembendek really likes, and an Islands map, which I later removed because it was very bad. Then I added 2 more items, the puller and the Uzi. Now the Uzi is pretty self-explanatory, but what does the puller do? Now one of my friends doesn't have the skills to use the grappling hook, so he made me add an item that pulls you towards the item you're grappling onto. The lobby was kind of just like a white platform, so I made a lobby based off my old Minecraft servers lobby. If you recognize this, you're a G. And I also added a reference to one of my admins. The game was starting to progress faster than ever. There was a fully functional game loop, there was lots of movement mechanics, and it was very fun to play. But now I had exams, so the progress was going to slow for a few weeks. And when I come back, everything should be completely fine and nothing should be corrupted. Okay, so after coming back after 2 weeks, everything was corrupted. None of the scripts worked. Fortunately, I had a backup, but this was from just adding mirror support. But throughout this whole summer, I had no motivation to work on this project. So I took up freelance game development on Fiverr, and people asked me to make the weirdest games. On screen right now is a game about Gordon Freeman going to the Krusty Krab, which was a really good use of this person's money. So after 2 months of doing absolutely nothing, I decided to come back to the game. So I quickly remade all the Steam features in 3 months. Then I added a sniper and a shotgun, which are my best models yet. The logic was already implemented, so it was very easy to add these. Then I started working on a character customization system. Most of the cosmetics are just inside jokes with friends. Comment below if you want me to add a cosmetic. This brings us to the end of 2022, which was probably the most eventful year for this game. At the start of 2023, I began the polishing phase, which was basically just adding sounds and improving the game feel, also improving the graphics to make it look more professional. After this, I play tested the game with a few friends and it went pretty well. During this test, there was one major issue, and that was that the bullets would never hit. That's because they're rigid body based, so I made them hit scan based, and the game works a lot better. This basically meant I had to reprogram the entire gun system for like the 3rd time, but now it all works, so it was kind of worth it in the end. I realized that the sword was kind of useless, so I added abilities to it. And I definitely did not copy them from Link's abilities in Super Smash Bros. I would never. Nintendo, please don't sue me. Then I added a nice ripple effect to the grappling rope, which makes the game look a lot more polished. I also added a sound effect to it. Then I made it so you can grapple on moving objects, which you probably saw in one of my devlogs. Then I remodeled the entire lobby to make it look more polished, and the color palette is really good on this map. I'm actually pretty proud of this. Then I fixed a very minor game-breaking bug, and I cleaned up some back-end server-sided stuff to stop players from cheating. Fixed some more long-lasting bugs, made the sniper scope actually work, which you've probably seen in devlog 2. Then I worked on a very highly requested feature by everyone who played the game, which was map voting. You can vote for what maps you want, and the winning map will be selected. Then I made another feature that was very long overdue, which was a pause menu. I'll later add a settings menu to this. I also made my own sound effects for wall running and sliding. I made these by sliding a sheet of paper across my desk and pitching it up on Audacity. Then I got another group of playtesters who actually genuinely enjoyed playing it and wanted to play it even more. Then I worked on a UFO map that had very polished lighting and glow effects. I also added some detailed terrain to this map. I began focusing on baking lights, and I actually purchased a better graphics card to make this better, as it would take 8 hours to render an entire scene, which was absolutely abysmal. Now it takes at most 10 minutes to do this, which is very good compared to 8 hours. Then I worked on adding lag compensation methods, which you can actually see in my previous devlog. It goes very into depth and it's very interesting.
Then the developer of this game kidnapped me and forced me to make amazing 3D models for the Digger and the AK.
Sorry about that guy, he doesn't really get out much. Then I made some highly advanced player animations, which worked okay. Then I started work on remaking all the old UI. This isn't completely finished, but it definitely looks a lot better than the previous UI, because the previous UI was absolutely terrible. If you're wondering, I actually used the Canadian palette from Flat UI Colors. It actually worked very well for this type of UI. I'm actually still in the process of doing this in 2024, which is pretty alright. I mean, I can't complain. I need it to be good. Speaking of remaking things, I've started remaking old maps. I removed the first map because it was just not good for gameplay at all. And I also started working on a new version of the UFO map, which looks a lot better and plays a lot better, as you can no longer go on the terrain. This actually improved the gameplay flow by a lot. This actually marks the end of 2023, and we go on to this year. Now it's the start of this year, so I haven't really gotten much done. I'm just continuing on those last 2 things from last year. But really, this year, my plans are to keep polishing the game, add more maps, add more weapons, listen to community feedback, and much more. So join my Discord server if you want to be part of any of this. If you watched this far, I really appreciate you. I want to thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing. And if you like this video, YouTube thinks you'll like this video. Alright, see ya.